Before this video starts, I just want to very quickly say that I now have a Discord, and I also have a Patreon. The Patreon will be any of my project files that I include in any tutorials, and any of the files, just in general, that I include in tutorials. Also, make sure to hit the notification bell, so that way you're notified every time I post a video, and if you like Blender tutorials, then hit the subscribe button. Anyways, let's get right into the video. Hello everyone, my name is Michael from PolygonIsland, and today I'm going to be showing how to create a swampy wetland scene in Blender. So quick heads up, the assets I'm going to be using are from Megascans. If you don't have access to Megascans, because it is a paid subscription based service, you can always use your own models, create your own models, or sign in with your Epic Games account and use Megascans for free. So getting started, we're going to be trying to recreate the this kind of image from the wetland collection from Megascans. So I want to try to create something like this, so let's get started. So I'm using Quixel Bridge. What this does is it basically makes importing Megascans to your scene very easy. So what we can do is we can go ahead and import most of these assets that we have here. We're going to be using most of these for a scene. So I'm not going to waste time and show you guys me importing every single asset. So I'm going to cut the video and then I'll be back once I've downloaded and have my assets all in the scene. So I now have all the assets that we're going to use pretty much imported. I might add some later on. But once you have all the assets that you're going to use for your scene imported, we can go ahead and start. So for the scene, I do recommend any kind of tree branches, dead trees, any kind of moss, flowers, swamp plants, of course your ground materials, pretty much just stuff that you would see in a swamp, like banks, mossy rocks, anything like that. That's what I would recommend for this scene. So I'm going to go ahead and put this over on my second monitor because I'm going to use the original Megascans collection render as a reference. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and separate all these assets by just hitting G and then moving them over to where they're not in our way. We're just going to do this for a little bit until they're just basically all over here in this nice and neat section where it's not going to be in our way because we're going to be sculpting the ground. So just take the grass. If you're using Megascans grass, they have this like X, Y, and Z thing. You have to grab them by that. It's just because of where they're clumped together and stuff. It's kind of hard to grab it sometimes, to be honest with you, but there we go. You'll get it eventually. It seems that rock has it too. Not sure why. And that rock. Oh, that's the rock collection. Okay. Well, I'm going to take the bigger assets and put them over here. And just do this. And yeah, just basically bring all your assets over here to where you can find them easily. Just basically keep doing that. I think this is the last one. No, it is not. Is this the last one? Yes, it is. Okay, so once we have that done, basically what we can do is we can go ahead and start sculpting our actual ground. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to add a plane by hitting Shift A and then plane. I'm going to scale it up to about that big. I'm going to hit Control A and apply the scale. Then I'm going to hit Tab and I'm going to subdivide this thing about 75 times for now. So with that, what we can do is go into Sculpting Mode. And then we can basically just sculpt up certain parts. So leave certain parts dipped in and just sculpt up certain parts. Kind of like this. Like this. Just kind of have certain parts that are up. Just kind of make like a wetland kind of ground, basically. Like have some parts coming up or more than others. Have some parts just flat, because the flat parts we're going to add our water into. You can kind of put these up if you want to. And just sculpt it out like this. And then once you have something that you think is good, what we can do is we can go back into our layouts. We can shade this smooth. and then we can go ahead and find our ground texture. So basically all your all your textures for all your objects are going to be in here. But yeah, I'm pretty sure mine is this one, this forest roots. My dog's barking in the background, by the way. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, depending on your texture, it might stutter a little bit, but we can go ahead and go into our rendered view, and we'll be able to see what's going on here right now. But now once it's rendered, we can see that our material is on there. Sometimes you will have to UV unwrap the material, but for now it's looking pretty good as it is. I don't really need to change anything. I don't think so, at least. I think it's good. But yeah, if you're using Megascans assets, it might take a while to render up or render out, because Megascans assets are like really high quality and it kind of tanks performance on Blender. So what we're going to do after that is we're going to go ahead and add the water. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to Shift A and we're going to add another plane. We're going to bring it up to where it's kind of coming up on these parts right here, and then we're just going to scale it up for the whole plane. So we can see now that we have these raised parts right here. We have that. And I'm going to go ahead and then add the swamp water material that I imported, which if I scroll down, it would be swamp water right here. And now if we render it out again and we wait a little bit, it's pretty much, it always takes a while on the updating images part up here on the top left, and that's just because of the textures, the high quality textures that Megascans uses. It takes a while for those to kind of compile. So I'll probably cut the video until this renders. Oh, there it is. So this is rendered now, and we can see that we have this. I'm going to bring our light right here, and we can see that the reflectiveness is not right. It's using a roughness map. So the way we can fix this is splitting our window by going up here under the Blender logo, clicking and dragging. Click this little ball and grid in the shader editor, and we can see that in our roughness, it just has a roughness texture. So we can see that that is not doing very good right now. It might be. I might just be completely out of it, because it kind of looks like right there. But we can try this anyway. If this is a good tip, if your roughness texture is inverted or something, just Shift A and then type in invert node, and then put the invert right here, and yeah, it was right the first time. I'm just not good at anything I do. So we're just gonna put that back, and so now we have our material right here, our swamp water material right here. In this, we could probably change the material, which is probably what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to change it to another swamp water material that I have over in Bridge. So I'm just going to scroll down to that real quick. I'm going to put it over here so you guys can see too. Was it up? I can't remember if it was. Yes, it was right here. Yeah, I'm going to try to use this one. I'm just going to download it. And then once it downloads, we can just export it to Blender. So it'll be export to Blender, and then we'll say exported successfully. We can click the plane, and now we can use a different swamp water material. Also, shade this plane smooth so you don't have any of that like any of those faces actually showing on the geometry. So we're just gonna wait for this to render. It should take just seconds, but yeah. So now this is rendered, and we can see we have our swamp water right here. The scene looks pretty bare bones right now because we don't have any kind of assets in it or anything. Also, what I might do is I might bring this plane up a little bit. Not that plane, this plane up a little bit. Kind of like that. Or what I could do is I could just smooth this plane out by going to sculpting, hitting Shift S, and then smoothing these parts out like this, just so they're not as high up and bumpy. So I'm going to just do this just to kind of make them a little bit flatter. Make sure they don't go back under the plane. But yeah, we go back in the layout and now we have this. So once we have this, basically what we can do is we can start putting our assets in. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting the bigger assets in first, like this like tree rock thing that's going on. I'm just going to put this about right here. We can use our rotate tools to rotate it around, kind of put that right there. We could also duplicate it, maybe put it like right here. Just kind of like make it look like a mossy scene, like, or like where there's a bunch of like dead trees, dead roots, stuff like that. We can put this down right here, Shift D, rotate it, just kind of like set dress the scene. And then once we have that, I'll put a tree stump. This is pretty much up to you, however you want your scene to look. But this is what I'm doing. You can follow along if you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and place this tree stump like right here, under the ground a little bit. And yeah, we can take this like twig, scale it down a little bit, period on our numpad to focus it, kind of put this like right here, and stuff like that. Just basically make sure to mask the texture as much as you can, because really texture, as much as it gives, it doesn't give enough, if that makes sense. You have to have these objects in your scene for it to look good and for it to look correct. So I'm just going to put this like right here, bring it up a little bit, something like that, and then we can basically do that for the rest of the scene. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll probably put a time lapse in or something of me doing that. So yeah. So basically all I'm doing right here is just set dressing the scene, putting different bank objects down, and right here I'm just using proportional editing to move that down because it didn't fit the scene. I'm adding different trees and stuff. I'm adding the rocks to the water, and just set dressing the scene all together. So yeah, this isn't the full thing, but it's pretty much most of it. So this is what I've come up with for this scene so far. It's looking pretty good. Well, it's not looking good right now because we don't have any sort of good lighting set up. But this is the basic composition of the scene I'm going to use. I might change some stuff later on. But once you have your scene decorated out with your assets, basically what time it is to add your grass and plants and stuff. So basically the way we're going to do that is we are going to use our grass. We're going to select all the parts of our grass right here. And we're going to hit Control and J. And that's going to join our grass together into one object. We also missed a spot right here, right here, right here, right here. Just get a glass clump and then just Control J, and that'll make it one object. Do the same thing for this. You can just box select it if you want, and then unselect this, and then hit Control J. You should be able to hit Control J. I might have to select these manually, which kind of sucks, but that's what happens. And just Control G or Control J. We missed a part right there. Control J. And yeah, so we have those now. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's that. And we also have these right here, which I'm going to select all of them, or mostly all of them, as many as I can. Hit Control J, move it out of the way. Missed the part right there. Control J, and just basically keep selecting until you have something like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select all of our plants and grass. We're going to hit Control G, go down here to collection. I'm just going to name these plants. You can name them anything you want. I'm going to name them plants. And then once we have that, we can go over to our plane where our terrain is sculpted on. We can hit Object Mode and then Weight Paint, and we can basically paint wherever we want our grass to be. So I'm just going to paint along here, through here and stuff, around here, just wherever you want grass and plants to be. So I'm just going to sculpt where they should be. If it's off camera, don't sculpt on it. because that's just using extra resources that don't really matter. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that should be good. Yeah, just sculpt wherever you want your plants to be, and then we can go back into object mode, and then we can go to our particle settings down here under the modifiers, click the plus, and then add a hair, and then under render, change the render to collection, and then instance collection, select your plants. So you can see right now they're all over the place because we haven't assigned that vertex group we just made. So if we go down under vertex groups and density, choose that group that you just made, and you can see now we have those in those places. So you can see right now they're pretty not random at all, and there's some parts that are coming off of it. So the way we can fix that is go into weight paint again, and then go to subtract right here, and then just subtract from the edges until you don't have any more of that going on. Just subtract from the edges like this. And I don't know why these are still here, because they shouldn't be that far off. But anyway, we're just gonna leave that like that. We're gonna go back into object mode, and we're gonna go to children, and then change it to interpolated, and then change the display amount to something more reasonable like 3, and then change the render amount to something like 3. You can change it from more or less of what you want. It doesn't really matter per se, but yeah. But we can see now we have all of our plants selected. We have those like mossy plants right there. We could probably scale our mossy plants up wherever they were. They were right here. We can probably scale these up, and that should scale them up over here. Maybe? Nah, scales all of them up. But yeah, we can do that, and then we have our grass. So if I save this and then go into render view, it might take a tiny bit longer now because we have our grass now, but we'll still be able to see it. So you can see now we have our grass and everything, which is over here and stuff. So that's looking pretty good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add an HDRI into our scene. So just open up your favorite web browser and then type in hdrihaven.com. And go to HDR Haven over here on the right, go to HDRIs, and then just go to outdoor. And under outdoor, you can find one that you like. I'm probably going to use this one because it's foresty, and it should make the lighting resemble itself a little bit better. Just download the 2K. You can go higher resolution, but I'm going to download the 2K. I'm going to make sure that it's in the right folder. It is. And we're just going to go to Blender. We're going to go to our world options, which is this little globe. Under the color, select the yellow dot, and then select environment texture, and then click open. Go to wherever it's saved at, and then just find it. And then once you do that, and we render it again, we'll be able to see that it now has lighting data in our scene once it renders. So you can see now we have the HDRI giving lighting to our scene. What I'm probably going to do is change the strength to like 0.6 or something, because I feel like it's too bright right now. 0.6. And then that should make it a little bit darker, which is what we're going for. And then also what we're going to do is we're going to add volume to this. So the way we do that is we are going to click this little icon, Shift A, and then we're going to add a cube. We're going to scale it up over our entire scene, and then we are going to go into our materials tab, click new, under surface, disconnect it, and then under volume, pick principal volume, and then do something like 0.02. We can change that later, or once we render it, if it is too high or too low. So this is going to take a little bit longer to render once it actually comes in, because it's volume, and volume is intensive to render, but we'll be able to see it. So we can see now that we have volume in our scene, which is pretty cool. It kind of gives that like foggy early morning effect. But also what we're going to do is we are going to I actually might change the Hdri. I want something kind of like cloudy and dusky, something like that maybe, or maybe something like that. Might use that one. We can also choose what we want. I'm gonna go in overcast. I'm gonna see what overcast has. So I'm gonna use this one. This one might be a little bit better for this scene. And we can just save it and then do the exact same thing that we did before. If your HDRI works, then you don't have to do this, obviously. But I'm going to, because I'm just trying to fix the lighting. I'm also going to go ahead and get rid of our original light that's in the scene. Just delete that. And we wait for it to render again. So we can see this is how it's looking now. I also replaced the swamp texture, the actual swamp's water texture. But now what we can go ahead and do is we can give this a sunlight to kind of give it more shadow. So I'm just going to give it a sunlight. I'm going to bring it up, and I'm just going to rotate it to where it's pointing some kind of direction where we want shadows. So I'm probably going to have it pointing in this direction over here, and I'm just going to change the strength to something like 5. We'll see how that works. Then we go into rendered view, wait for it to render again, and we should be able to see our sunlight giving a little bit more shadows to the scene. So we can see now our sunlight is giving a little bit more definition to the scene. What we can go ahead and do is I might change the strength of the HDRI down a little bit more to maybe 0.4, just so it's not so blown out. And yeah, we basically have this right now, which is looking pretty cool. This tree stump does look kind of out of place though. I'm gonna kind of shrink it down, move it over here, give some more rocks, kind of put that one right there, rotate it around, bring it up, move it, bring this rock, put it over here, move it around, just so we have a little bit more going on. So something like that. So now pretty much once you're happy with your scene, you can go ahead and render it out. We will be using Photoshop for color grading. You can also use Krita or GIMP or any other photo editing program you have. But I'm going to go ahead and render this out, and I'm going to give it some color grading and some post-processing effects. So I will be back once this renders. So after a painstaking 30 or so minutes, the render's done. We're going to quickly take this into the Compositor. We're going to click the Use Nodes, and we're going to move the Composite node out of the way. We're going to hit Shift A and then type in denoise. This is NVIDIA's optics denoiser. It uses hardware to denoise images. It's a lot better than the old denoiser that was built into Blender. We can just drag this in the middle of this line right here, click, and it'll connect itself. If we have Node Wrangler on, which is Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then we type Node Wrangler, we can just select this and then save preferences. I don't know why the window opened that big. Don't ask me. I don't know. But we can control shift and then click on this denoise, and then once it denoises, which could take a second, which it's done now, we can click fit and we can see our image right here. So going back to rendering, we can put this on viewer node just to make sure that we have the full image right here from the compositor, and we can just go ahead and click image and then save as, and then we can just title this Wetlands or something .png, and then just save as image, and it'll save your image. And now what we can go ahead and do is, first, what I want to point out is the dust overlays I'm using are just, if you looked up dust overlays on Google, you just look up dust overlays, go to images. As long as it has a black background, it'll work. I recommend not using a low resolution, because that just makes the dust look all blurry and stuff. But once you have that, you can just go into Photoshop, which is right here, and we can go ahead and open it up, wait for it to open up, and then we can put this thing in Photoshop, do some color correction, add some dust overlays, and stuff like that. So we're just going to go File and then Open, and then we're just going to type in wetlands.png or whatever you saved it as. Now once we're here, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to add a color curves for the first thing, and then we can hit Alt and then click on in the middle of curves and layer 0 to lock it to that layer, and we can just go ahead and brighten some parts up like this, something like that. Looks pretty good. We can also go into color balance, maybe make it a bit more blue, something like that maybe, or if you want you can make it yellowish and have a warmer look, but I'm going to keep it as just a tiny bit blue, something like that. And then what we can go ahead and do is to go with a hue saturation. You can turn the saturation up or down. I'm going to turn mine up just a little bit, about maybe 15 should be good. And then you can lock all these layers in a mask, a clipping mask, by alt clicking them in the middle of them, just to lock it all to this layer. So if you put a layer under this, it won't affect that one too. So now we have our basic color. You could also experiment with any of these if you want, but I'm going to leave this as that. And I'm going to go to File and then Place Embedded, and then I'm just going to go and then type in whatever the name is for my dust overlays. So I'm just going to just overlay this right here. Make sure it covers the whole image. Make sure it is on top of the overlays or the adjustment layers, and we can alt click those to lock those back. And then we can just, under this normal tab right here, just click lighten, and then once we do that, we can change the opacity to something like 20 or so, something like that. I'm going to change the saturation back down, which I could do if that showed up. I'm going to turn the saturation down just a little bit and do something like that. And then once we have that, what we can do is we can go ahead and then place another one. I'm pretty sure these are all in my main drive. So dust2.jpg. Then we can go ahead and put that coming from the top. Make sure it covers the entire image like the other one. And then we do the same thing. We lighten it. Change the opacity down to maybe like 20. And I'm going to add one more, and that is a bigger dust overlay. It's kind of like this thing. Well, it is this thing, but you know. Make sure it covers the whole image. And then once again, we change it to lighten. And then we change the opacity to something like 10 for this one. Also for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to add a color curves, clip mask it, and we're just going to bring it down a little bit to kind of just make it not as extreme. Just kind of adjust the color curves a little bit until we have something like that. Then also what we're going to do is we're going to click on the layer itself. We're going to go to filter and we're going to go to blur and we're going to add a tilt shift. And then we're just going to put this all the way up here pretty much. And then this is going to go down here. So it's something like that. So that way we have just a little bit of blur on this side and this side. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the render completed. So thanks guys so much for watching. If you learned something, then make sure to leave a like. Check out some of my other tutorials. And as always, my name is Michael from Polygon Island. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.